So let's do the letter D, shall we? The D is very much like the B. If you've been going in alphabetical order, it starts with an S curve, starting up very close to the top, but not quite, so you can curve up, hit the top line, then come down and come back up to the top line. By the way, can you see my guidelines there? You may be benefited by making a guideline very much like mine. The next stroke then starts basically touching that one and coming straight down, a vertical, stop about 1/3 from the bottom. 1/3, 1, 2, 3, yeah, about there. Now, the next stroke you have a choice. You can either do it start up here or start down here. I'm going to do this stroke next, and I want to start my stroke collinear with the top one. So I'm doing a long, straight curve, I call it. That is not an S curve, and I feel like that's too long, but we'll fix it next time around. Then come up and do the second stroke. You remember this second vertical, how close is it to the first one? If you've watched my intro or some of the other letters, about half a pen width in between. In other words, I want the white space between these two lines to be narrower than the width of the dark space. That makes sense? Now the third is the large curve comes out, starting sort of straight, sort of a quick curve, and then comes down and meets this one. One of the things you want to make sure in the letter D, to keep it having a Gothic look, is don't let it doesn't have a big, wide, bulbous curve out like that. No, it's rather truncated or condensed. All of the Gothic alphabet is essentially condensed. The next stroke then, I'm holding my pen at the number 1 angle, which means straight up and down. I want to make a line as thin as I can with my pen, straight down like that. And then I draw the 2 hooks, and then the 2, what I call the 2 ladder marks, which are line up with the middle of the hooks, right there and right there. Let me do another letter D without quite so much talking. Is that all right? First curve. There we go. This letter, I made it too long. Now straight down, stop about 1/3 from the bottom. There. Now this curve. And kick out just a little bit of a foot there. Back to the top, fairly close to that first stroke and perfectly parallel to it, and then down and connecting with this curve down here. Next, the big curve, start out straight out and then curve rather abruptly, and then a nice longer curve coming down and meeting the foot down there. Get it? Now I hold my pen at a number 1 angle, straight up and down. And again, how close is it? About the same as the distance between there. So fairly close. Don't let it get wobbly and far away. Keep it tight. Hook, hook, and then the ladder marks even with the middle of the hooks. There you go. That's not bad. So let's go then to a pen nib. Here's my guideline for a capital. With a pen, I'm using a Speedball C number 1. That S curve at the top, then a vertical. I have discovered that for me, one of the most difficult aspects of the letter is getting that vertical. I tend to make mine slant a little bit to the left. Next stroke, I'm doing this stroke next. It doesn't matter necessarily which of those two you do next. Then this bottom curve with a little bit of a foot, and this curve coming down and meeting the first one. Now I'm going to do the vertical, holding my pen at a number 1 angle, and then drawing these 2 hooks. By the way, when I draw the hooks, I'm also holding my pen at a number 1 angle, straight up and down. And then the ladder marks, where I'm holding my pen at a number 5 angle, and that's a fairly messy D. Let me do one more time where I'm not talking quite so much. Try to clean that up. Straight down. Let's do this curve next. A little hook on it. Next stroke. Straight down and come down and meet that bottom curve. And the top curve out, around, and gently come in and meet that first curve. Now holding my pen at a number 1 angle, it comes straight down and then my hooks, and my ladder marks lined up with the middle of those hooks. Good enough? Now let's look at the lowercase d. Here's my guideline for that, going to my double pencil tool. Now the lowercase d has an ascender, so if this is the top of my X height, that's called my header. My ascender line will be up about there. So I start there, but I'm actually going to start at the header and do this angle. So it's essentially just like drawing an O shape, and then come up here. I want to establish this first so I know where to start my ascender. And then a little bit of a hook here. And just as we did with the lowercase a, we can just draw that straight or make it come down. And then finally I've got this last hook down there. There we go. Let me do that again. There you go. Now, pen. Let me grab a tissue to dry off my pen. I dip it in water periodically. Here's my guidelines for the lowercase letters. Start at the header, straight down, angle, then back up here, angle, straight down, angle, angle, and angle. Got it? And then this little flag at the top. Now let me do that just one more time, this time adding the little hangnail, I call it, that adds just a little bit more interest to the letter. So again, starting here, but then backing up a little bit so I leave a little bit of a hook showing at each intersection, basically. Does that make sense? And then the flag at the top. There we go. So it's very much like the letter A, except that's taller. Okay, so that's the letter D. This one is a little bit, I think, a little bit preferred or a little bit fancy. This is acceptable, but the one with the little extra hangnails on it, I think, is a little bit more interesting. You're doing a great job. Let's keep going.